We are live. Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Millett, the one and only. And this is the quarantine stream, the 43rd one. Let us hear the ever beautiful, ever lovely, ever wonderful, evergreen quarantine stream theme, shall we? Oh, beautiful. Isn't it, though? Lovely. All right. Hope you're all doing okay out there. This is called Dance the Night Away. A blue wave sprayed gently onto the window. It remained an unfaded crescent reaching over the rooftop. Birds flew through untethered. Droplets yawned in sonorous applause. The shape succumbed, giving way by matching passing movements, as when water splashes in the sky. A maypole stands unraveled, while a sunfish kisses a butterfly. The fences were then a canvas, soaked tissue paper sprung over electrical wires, fragile forktails freshly shaven, as bronze tiger beetles glanced up at the heavens. Dance the night away! It's called Fawn. Two brothers named Canary were said to have stolen from the community chest. They didn't have the decency to steal from the wealthy, take what they need, and give away the rest. But the law couldn't be trusted and thus were never called. So the Canaries were chastised and then marched to the town walls. The locals hoped word would travel down the wire and that they'd be denied food, lodgings, and water wherever they retired. But quickly enough, the Canaries were forgotten and continued to ride along freely without judgment or punishment, and if they ever committed any further acts of thievery, it was never noted publicly. Griffith, resplendent in a natty navy suit, steals Jessica's champagne in a wrong-headed attempt to give it back later as a gift, thinking she'll appreciate it more. Jessica, powerful yet delicate in a mellow peppermint pencil dress, rubs the bristle of Griffith's temples into his sweat and wonders how many texts he'll have to hide from her next. Griffith says he can break skin without bleeding. He dyes water blue before he drinks. He memorizes reviews, then skips to the end of the books that he reads. Jessica can get arrested and go straight home, and spend the rest of her week yelling at strangers on the street and snapping reaction shots of the backs of their heads. Griffith is flummoxed as he's photographed exiting his favorite bar in the early morning, his mother's birthday on his mind, and a cigarette tucked behind his ear. Jessica is photographed ironically flashing a peace sign on the beach, her mother's week-long visit thankfully now over. Griffith explains to his extended family the nature of his many public feuds and why they will persist, and bats away a leading question by their lawyer, disregarding being disproven by facts, feeling justified in thinking that the best way to reconcile a discrepancy is to attack. Or, as might have been dreamt in a different way, they made fun of his family name, an insult to his family name. They made fun of his family name, and Jessica explains to the management at her company that discounting what could be considered her offensive language, the inherent truth of her statement still stood, though she was struck speechless when asked if she thought only her supporters were aware of her content. According to her informants, a known opponent, unaware she was being recorded, made a remark, the weight of which contradicted her previously stated public stance, compromised her previously stated stance. Pablo floats in the ectoplasm, washed in the oils marked for his self-portrait. The prize fish! Fawn's teeth snap on water when her magnetic coiled alertness goes unrewarded. Satsuki states her ideas for posterity. The problem that I see is that they assume that everyone who agrees with them about one thing agrees with them about everything. The problem that I see is that it's another version of corporate thinking, another way of being right-wing. The problem that I see is that they assume that I'll be a standard bearer. The problem that I see is that they are only willing to write their words out in chalk. The problem that I see is that they limit me to things I had no control over. The problem that I see is that their personal truth has no dialogue with honesty. Satsuki states ideas she would later likely delete. I'll never be able to stop forcing emotions from myself. I'll never be able to be an eggshell. I'll never be able to be a pierced genital. I'll never be able to convince people. I saunter past the bar in the JPEGs of 2003 like it means anything. I step over the bar and resurfaced insisting that sounds like a rhinestone. I ignore the bar and all the people whose minds comprise the seventh circle. I shake my head at the bar, hoping to get money from acquaintances for friendship services. Satsuki notes things that she's overheard. I try and fail and cannot help but hate the people who stay past closing and get distracted where there's a webcam on the wall, hoping no one saw you picking pepper out of your teeth while thinking, oh, it's like modern art. This is being seen somewhere and I am the subject in this moment, this ultimate moment. Take a drink, the gaze. Take a drink, it's empowering. I wonder if I know them. Old movies to me are like Dream a Little Dream. I wouldn't watch anything older because I'd be bored and I wouldn't even know what they were talking about. This is called Sacrifice the Satellite. Moments before dawn, phone ringing, unable to suss if it was happening from impressions born in shallow sleep, while lights flicked on in neighbors' windows. Or, as the drift seized me back in, we were gun runners trapped in a house, detained by police, threatened by rivals, but I was able to slither out a side door and snuck away to a cafe where I was supposed to summon assistance, but decided instead, the hell with them. I was called to a room. The walls of the hallway were electric blue, and when I entered, there they sat, looking exactly as they did in 1984. When one spoke, there was no sound from their mouths, but the words sank loudly in my skull. Crushed flowers float downstream in the rainwater, and handmade smokestacks drip steam on half-awake blades of grass. New nuns count the gray hairs of their predecessors as they scan old photographs. Will they question who's alive in heaven? Are their words papering a mountain? They will have a moment where they behold the beauty of an empty screen or an unplowed, snow-covered street. Lost in a world between are the souls who only dream when looking up. Thick, shimmering splotches of gray grease liquefy and start to drip down rust-colored walls of skins, watched by a babe with a flashbulb embedded in their wrist, who sits on gouged black and gold tiles in the center of a disused ballroom dance floor, among carelessly flung piles of metal-pronged monitors, cords, discs, spilled coffee grounds, broken vodka bottles, and asymmetrical platinum wigs. Every year there's a whisper the inventory will get a clean transfer. Whiston Dubois knew the recovered money was wrapped in a mosquito net and secured in the back of a carriage. The horse stopped in front of an Air Force base, which got inadvertently captured on videotape, with the footage dissected by theorists for decades. Desmond Hampton learned Tony Chamberlain had double-crossed him as he drank milk and clapped erasers together outside his classroom. His signature had been forged and hidden throughout the system. The younger best brother thinks, if only I were a CEO buying companies whose names I don't know and could leverage my credibility to simultaneously flaunt my status and champion myself as an obscurity. And the older best brother thinks, if only I were an oligarch and had a tapestry of machinery to do what I want, live in seclusion, invest in rare art, and pay for a hooker who looks like my daughter. Lost in a world between are the souls who only dream when looking up. The beams of starshine light land everywhere and leave valley-wide fingerprints for 7 years. Minute glass tubes can shiver without bursting, squidding on glistening diamonds laid out on linen, spirals scrawled on maps with the location leading inside a puzzle box, while fungus slides up to a microscope and mixes with vinegar and bleach. Circles of sapphires line the linoleum tile with a surface so improbably clear it mimics a screen. Lost in a world between are the souls who only dream when looking up. It is unfortunate and amazing how many people this one applies to. This is called Sympathy for the Cowboy. Sympathy for the Cowboy. All alone on the range, after the war ended, he was forced to change his name. Sympathy for the Cowboy holding his dying brother, who begged with his last breath, "Tell mother I died with honor." Sympathy for the meth lab and all who fight in harm's way, who hope to abolish the minimum wage and charge only $15 a day. Sympathy for modern times and those who argue they're right. Sympathy for the victim who already has all the laws on their side. Sympathy for the student who's only lived in theory, in a hammer and sickle t-shirt, walking away from the barricade. Sympathy for the lawsuit and all who fought for reform. Sympathy for the bumper sticker telling you to be reborn. Sympathy for the stallion running free and too wild to ride. Sympathy for the fucker who tried. His wife cried, him and his foolish pride. Sympathy for the strawberry and the trial separations, press releases pleading for privacy and doing it for the kids. Sympathy for the nihilist sucking on his cigarette, cutting you off in traffic, no constraints of guilt or regret. Sympathy for the stalker on his computer outside, looking at pictures of you in high school, saving each one, even if it takes him all night. Sympathy for the cowboy whose son moved off the ranch, said he might be coming back soon if there's no change of plans. How are we doing out there? Doing okay? Beautiful. This is a very old one. This is from way back when. This is called The Ballad of Jenny, Part 1. She called up from a party after drinking all night. She said that she'd been raped, but that she liked the sensation. The listener concluded that she is a rape and went back to bed. She called back the next morning, but the machine picked it up. She was glad, though, because she didn't like talking to humans anyway. Doing okay out there? Beautiful. This is one from, let's see, when I was 17. I wrote this when I was 17. This was written as I watched a homeless man, his arm heavily bandaged, and the end of the bandage waving in the wind, bashing said injured arm against the wall of a window, or not a wall, a window. There was a time where I had given that guy money, but I had stopped because anybody who gave him money would get harassed greatly. So, unfortunately, unless you wanted, you would have to sort of put your head down and run. because he clearly was dealing with a lot. And Daly's police force at the time was trying to beat up and round up homeless people to get them out of the area because the Olympics were coming. Or was it the Democratic National Convention? I know it was the DN. It wasn't the Olympics. It was the DNC was coming, and that's what it was. And the cops actually killed a homeless guy who was sleeping on an air grate that summer, and the cop later got acquitted. So that's sort of the context for this piece. This is called "They Never Felt Sorrow." Mind recover recourse cavern, colic, garlic, wrapped in rape, duck blood punching, wino porno spinning, span spew, lacerating, stomach bleeding, howling dirge, summer slump, bitch boy, never ending, never mind, it's just your soul, ass preaching, psycho dancers, wildly glinting life trance, owl slop, teasing, jeering, genocide, clown of fools, crucifixion, demigod, good morning, phallic moon, looking, lurking, thoughts stealing, marquee, peace lame. Understanding, underhanding, fetal gene, spleen spill, lip smart, claustrophobic exaltation, spreading love, semi-happy sleep, feather finger, grinding sand, carpetbagger through the heart, silver bullet for all to see, street scene, blue jean, bow tie, syrup cracker kicking speed, flare monkey, overwhelming, coffee lush, dead unharmed, roast teeth, parking lane, culture store, house shock, sleepy diction, slicking rabbi, madly turned, tired heart, syncopation, simulation, belt sanding, reaping now, OB siren stroll, lost forever, pointing blank, flashing flasher, abstractly red writ, tax void, corrosion slicing, tired brain cell, paranoid, lumpen self. This is a newer one. And there are people who might not understand it. If you're smart, I think you'll understand it. You might not. But, it'll eventually be understood. This is called Outsider Envy. When I didn't eat because I was afraid of being fat, when I stopped combing my hair because I didn't care, because it was beaten or mocked out of me, I never knew and had no way of knowing when they were calling me fat or a fag. This is the second act, and it's dedicated to everyone who I've survived. This is the second act, and it's dedicated to everyone who's survived. If it were possible, I'd have gone outside with a brown paper bag over my head with eye holes cut out. Now, this is the second act, and the people who beat me wish they were me, because now they have outsider envy. They want it so badly to cop a little piece of being picked last or never invited to the party, to use that as the basis of an argument that too many people have too many rights, risk their future because they can't work out how to bully back, so they try to cop my attitude. They used to beat me, and now they've got outsider envy, and now I don't have hair, and I still don't fucking care, and we will survive you. You can't be me with one lane of news. You can't be me trying to swim up a clogged stream. You can't be me making billionaires happy. You can't be me trying to relive the 80s. You can't beat me when you've got outsider envy. And the question is, well, you still don't have to worry about being black, and you wouldn't trade spots if you could, but you try to cop a little piece of their pain, snidely work in some slang, advertise for blue lives who are authorized to satisfy your cravings. And the question is, what's your joke? Boil down your building and pretend that it's a community with a creative culture, but it's just a fucking Burger King. It's just your latest costume, ram horns and face paint. This is the second act, and take a good look. Take a good look, because I'm what your future's supposed to look like. The future is for everyone who survived you, which really isn't that fucking hard to do. This is the future, and the truth too. And the truth too. Everyone knows the story about the emperor's new clothes, but what if the emperor disrobed and his subjects in court were aghast or disinterested in his state of undress? And what if he defiantly stood there naked anyway? It's called speeding into a red light. They don't know about my addictions. They shouldn't speak as if they do. I get sick without their opinions. Feel great relief when they provide valid, contradictory proof. I keep my feet straight, and then came the fish. I pledge my devotion of abstinence. The titanium is parallel, like my mind to the lathe. My heart is a piston. My feet and tongue triggers. My will is a safe underneath 20 feet of cement and railroad track. What has your contribution been? Ow, ow, ow! Don't disrupt my headset. Don't distract me with lights. I want action and motion, not your plans. I defeat these shrugging cretins. I accept what is certain. Out tonight, only dealing in facts, eliminating any glacial pace on my path. The cock gun in my lap is a reminder to me to keep perspective when looking for beauty in the land of the free. Holy smokes, that tower blew up quick. Well, there's no time to check if anyone innocent is trapped inside of it. I have to clear this fucking area pronto, or they won't let me stay in the hotel tonight, and I'll have to sleep outside. Fuck that, I ain't no new recruit. You and I in black, sloshing through the lake underneath the forest preserve, trickling up our legs. They don't know what we do. Private joy in a quiet moment, drinking Pepsi in my tent, the moonlight on your cylinders, and I in dark green lets me know what a wonderful world it can be. I burst! Out, 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 now! Me! I burst! How are we doing out there? Beautiful. This is one from the new book, which is called Apples and Ice Swimming Together in Soapy Water. It's available everywhere. This is called Should I Go In? Silver Peppermill whispers to the hammer that she's an airport. And though she never really shows anybody, I still know she's an airport. If you stop at her coffee shop, she'll charge you extra for a plastic top. The well-water ice cubes have heard this tale before, but she's an airport. A zebra's chewing gum can confirm the reports, but she's an airport. If you take off your shoes after the security stop, she'll throw them in the air and they'll land in the baggage cart. Run down the runway into the center of the day, where the sun is pointing to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes, and remember a story you'll want to pass along someday. Run down the runway into the center of the day, where the sun is pointing to the ground. Reach all the way to touch your toes, and remember a story you'll want to pass along someday. She's an airport, and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. Cessnatropria, dinara, retraf, siam, raf, delif, atun, rock, sklets. Reretam Sidnak Iraq Kaf Ganinips Evit Kelfer Selbuab every color candy every Vrolakidnak. If I could talk to you, I will some more, just like in today's world of opinion and denunciation and admirable like in pictures and friendliness and outward inliness. Maybe I'm on the thrust of that. She dreamed she was a train draped in robin's egg lace. She couldn't keep still in one place. She dreamed she was the only train running on the 4th of July, filled with whipped cream to burst and streamers to fly. She dreamed she was the train running past the impound lot, and after every platform on the route, she'd whisper, "I still love Phil." She was sad when they closed the gates at night. She dreamed she was a train filled with die-cast metal engines and cowboy hats ordered by the civil rights workers' favorite daughter. She dreamed she was a train, her earrings flashing orange lights. She waves hello to the one car she'd stopped at the tiny suburban crossing, a train to get the tracks loose and rattling. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles talking over each other at her grandma's birthday. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles loudly sucking on their dentures, making noises to keep them locked in place, arguing about what routes they took to get there or how much grapes cost at the convenience store, talking loudly over each other at her grandmother's birthday. Yadded rib, birthday! called Diamond Mine. Water rushing so fast it looks like knotted wood. Its sound is Cecil's perpetual crash in static blue and black. Droplets burst over the plank's sides and dot the dirt or land on kicked-out bricks, and from the ravine's opposite angle, the water seems to glide clockwise, rolling ever nearer toward the gears. And into the factory, where 7 years previous the core of the industry sunk unexpectedly early, and like a defense attorney, the treasurer ruled the materials used were archaic and their methods unrealistic, and as demand seized up, the foreman and night shift technicians acidly joked they were laboring within the Great Repression. For ages it seemed like the beams from the afternoon sun wouldn't come, but we later learned the view was obscured from a flood that started in the diamond mine. We know it's either tacitly implied or we're told outright. You can't be seen like that. You need lights. When money is exchanged and you're finally responsible and realistic, you can't be seen like that. You need lights. Know the value of being articulate and reconsider your obscure subject. You need to stay in the lines. You need to revise. Realize the need to eliminate images that would be unwise to present or ideas you'd be unable to defend. Why persist if honest people cannot implicitly understand? You can't be seen like that. You need lights. For years, it seemed like the beams from the afternoon sun wouldn't come, but we later learned the view was obscured from a flood that started at the diamond mine. Back in the head office, on the desk next to the coffee, scissors, and gold pen set was a black leather envelope in that morning's newspaper whose subheadline read, "Forget Forgetfulness," and detailed a local photographer who makes elaborate, enormous, near-twin gelatin prints of events, one real and one staged, and described the effect as painting over paintings. When asked by the reporter, "Who will get this?" the photographer remarked, "Anyone who misses being pure or ever imagined placing one point in time over another. Anyone who pictures the shape of ideas and not the shape of their mind. Anyone who sees a crowd and tries to find the people in disguise." Later, the paper lay open to the crossword puzzle, and among answers written in indeterminate script were asides like, "Does purpose follow appearance? Where is this from? Reasons better than because." And finally, determining what to become. This is from a new one. It's called Lazy Angels. Squat woman sealed in a shadow frock, trimmed in white, absence of light, selling stories from her garden that she demands are heard, but is greeted with the silence of the crowd's indifference. She doesn't already know that we can breathe and we can leave. She can't see that we already can walk through doors and open windows. Counterfeit prophet steals the locks. Illegal son, zero as one. Selling pictures of her dinner her guards are obliged to buy, even as her art collection is vanishing until the walls have nothing left hanging. She doesn't already understand that we can perceive, that we can receive. She can't see that we can paint flowers with any colors we can imagine. Their far and distant minds are trails best left behind. Sister to her father stops the drain under a rotting stage, 6-month wage, selling reports carefully whispered, in hopes her wealthy relatives will let her sign their wills first. She doesn't already know that we are her, twice as much or more, a complete verse. She can't see the red and gold bird flying right above. She can't see that we are her, twice as much or more. She can't see that she hands her keys to a steed who gallops away. away into the orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. And I'll orange rolling hills. It's called Windy Sequins. Through the missing bricks, you can see a banquet table with a candelabra crooked from water-falling wax. On the other side of the missing bricks is a tablecloth with faintly gray claw stains left by mourning doves. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table, heaving with indentations from apples, persimmons, cantaloupes, and pears. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a deer walking in the distance, while a finger painting floats to the ground. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table, with unopened telegrams and sturdy silver trays stacked with books about the Enlightenment. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a pebble garden placed on a tree branch next to a mortar and pestle. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table, lined along the bottom right edge with bowls of cold dandelion soup. Seated 45 degrees away from the banquet table is a man with a salt and pepper wax mustache humming waltzes and complaining about the distortions of sounds and colors. 110 years old, and he doesn't know that electric blue can be beautiful too. How are we doing this stuff? This is called Silver Lace. Never let it be said that the book won't be read, or that the candlesticks will be thrown out. That's like asking about your blankets and what became of them. Were they left in an alley or boxed and lent to a friend? Never let it be said that the chickens won't get fed, or that the evening coffee will run cold. That's like thinking the traffic lights will never turn red, or that the wire will run out before you get to return home. I'm looking at a book of photographs by Robert Frank, size cut in half, some maps people never thought to make, some paths people never thought to take. When Berkeley was originally settled, the center of town was marked with a church and a bank. Some people never think to give thanks, or wonder if they may be wrong. I still have the cassette he made, decorated with black magic marker and duct tape, though the sound cuts off in half the songs. Never let it be said that your sister will stay unwed, or that the scissors are no longer sharpened. That's like thinking the sun will never outshine the moon, or that the heat of the spring only lives in the swell of the afternoon. It's called the Vatican Vaults. Shelves lined with caskets, ripe fruit piled up in baskets. Sugar cubes and teacups rattle as saucers are dragged across tablecloths. Outside, a crowd sits, murmuring. A harmonium coughs discordantly off the spokes of a bicycle wheel, and snakeskin is carefully wrapped around palms. Two men each wear a veil, one off mauve, the other pink lady red. Gravel sits at the bottom of stained glass vials, and mink pelts are smoothed out over the tiles. Three elderly spinsters raise their voices in praise, their weathered hands shaking at the sky. Gold medals tied around their waists reflect the sun directly into children's eyes. Four blind beggars fool the crowd into believing they're brothers who compete by tying knots and rope faster than any comers, the act only ending at dusk when they split their spoils. Stars roll around the moon back and forth from end to end. Clouds erase them away when each new day begins. This is another new one. This is called Parallel Place. I live in a parallel place where the land is level, where the streets are bright in the evenings, and I know what tomorrow brings. I live in a parallel place where the wind is cold, where gray-haired men sweep the bandshell and foxes sleep under church bells. I hear the lank-haired women walking in the morning, their faces shaped by the sun. I live in a parallel place where there's endless electricity, with very low voltage, where everyone dies of old age. I live in a parallel place where rain runs into a tunnel, where able-bodied women clear the gutters and dragonflies rise in a slow-motion flutter. I see the able-bodied men hauling fallen branches, their faces shaded by the sun. I live in a parallel place where people speak in peace, where the foreman's spouse greets the mailman in a see-through blouse. I live in a parallel place where the forest faces east, where contracts are written in invisible ink, and codes are created with a wink. I see all the people breathing through the day, their faces graced by the sun. Blissful cardinals, blissful infants, blue reflections magnified 10,000 times, blue beams bouncing off aged lenses, radiant artifacts, radiant heirlooms, white sails blistered by the salty sun, white china stacked up in cupboards, shining domes, shining necklaces, green feelings balanced on a yardstick, green parchment weighted down by grapes. How are we doing out there? Beautiful. This is called Water. Water, 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 water. Water, 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 water. It would be good if motion could evaporate and then solidify into a form we view in flux, or be on course to be boundless and sing of the sea, aiming a voice at the sky. Never again I'd read a tattered sign. My body no longer closed in the folds of dirt and clay, but windblown and awake, seeing droplets in rivers become oceans and lakes. The salt darting through the air ends my hunger. It cleans the shore and surprises its permanent structure as the molecules become lighter and smaller. Dance in the water, woman and man. Thou shalt have a boat, thou shalt save a fish. Thou shalt be steering when the boat comes in. Thou shalt have a vision up in the crow's nest. Dance in the water, woman and man. Dance for the water, dance for the birds, dance for the wind. Dance for everyone stuck out there on land. Thou shalt see the king before the revolt. Thou shalt find a partner, one to love and to hold. Man will be woman, and woman will be man. Dance in the water, to the perch and to the sand. I once lived on Salisbury Plain. We'd come from Ireland and only ate grain. We changed their battle hymns and substituted our names, and we sang boldly, we shall rule the waves. Never, 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 never shall we be slaves. We sailed to the Pacific fighting equinoctial gales. We felt liberated by the sight of sharks, storms, and whales. We gathered strength and survived the death of Captain McCahey, for we would have been despised by his ghost if we had stopped facing the sea. Now we're outward bound toward the Gulf, to the Indies and back around. We'll gather gifts wherever we dock, and when we're headed home, I'll bring silver galore and a Persian cat and a camel fur, and you won't wear those cast-offs no more, no more, no more, no more. Now haul away the bowline, the ship is rolling. It's a tough life we merchants undergo, and we don't give a damn how hard the winds blow. The sailors gave us a bad name. They let us fall through the weary waves. They throw a hatchet in the floor of their boat, and if it doesn't sink, you'll hear them gloat. But if we roar out of order, never again would we see the sea. No more! No more! No more! No more! We sail with a northerly gale to our island home in the county of Cork. Our mainmast sprung, our pitching done, fire in our stomachs, salt water in our lungs. Now haul in the bowline, the ship is rolling. Ocean, 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 ocean. Endless ocean, endless ocean. I moved where I could see you, away from places I couldn't see through. I threw away my socks and shoes to be waiting at your shore. Endless ocean, endless ocean. My blood has all departed. I stopped the things I'd started. My organs are unguarded. I see your waves get parted by the tide in its rippling mood swings. Endless ocean, endless ocean. You sing so perfectly. I am in love inside the cotton of your warmth. Endless ocean. I'm calm and now I'm here. Your reflection is so clear. The sky is just a mirror, an imitation of you. Endless ocean, endless ocean. I don't need to talk. I found what I have sought. Into you I will walk. Endless ocean, endless ocean. Called Blue-Soaked Scepter. The kink in my neck that runs to my kidneys, distracting me from movies I've long since memorized and repeating quotations I've lived inside of, and I've no desire to rewrite history that doesn't concern me. When what I didn't know already felt familiar, when I saw the inscription on my commemorative plaque had been worn back to smooth silver, When I slipped behind the mist, changed clothes, washed my hands, and shaved, with no light and with no intention of anyone seeing my face for a while, I was willingly walked through a coal-stained city lot, deposited in the back seat of an already running windowless army green car, which was then locked from the outside. Mary! Had I abandoned my practice, committed an indirect affront in my brief absence? My name is Keith. The beggar at my door raised his arm but soft while I listened to his parables that had no center. My name is Luke. With an auspicious mistress beside me, I looked at a baby looking out a window at fluttering street signs. My name is Julia. My temper was gentle as I read a sermon called, "Are You Here to Celebrate the Death of Death?" My name is Giles. I wish that I'd been obscured when my ears were bitten with endearment while I was plainly ignored. My name is Grace. I was observed by 3 people whose accounts proved suggestible and fractured. My name is Abigail. I faced hard construction when I, in truth, spoke forcefully about my forged fingerprints. My name is Morgan. I spent twilight empty, save for sketching a red tunic on bent paper. My name is Brooke. I was registered in a hotel under an assumed name and made lists of families I pitied. My name is Gabriel. I singed my hair and clothes trying to be recalled. The sky's been moonless for 29 nights. Why couldn't I stay? I was bothered by the way the streetlights hit the trees and reflected off the leaves. I took a knife and short length of rope. 6 hours later, I'm waiting for you to arrive, carrying a scepter and wearing a breastplate with frayed shoulder blades and exhausted eyes. I'm waiting for you to arrive, sitting cross-legged on the sodden deck with wayward souls who were barely seen. I leapt off the ledge and was soon out of haunt as I climbed the concave shores, wondering if I should forage, catch a gudgeon, or eat unbruised fruit that had fallen. The gravelly, guttered soil gave way to encroaching forest dense with rows of weighted, wet, purple limbs that succumbed to gravity and wind. Then abruptly I was in the center of a champaign, and the only objects I found were short rows of tree stumps and stones, each carved with the query, "What made you look here?" I jaunced away into the odd even and was again pursued by the thicket's reach. The thorns licked my calves, the anthills shone like pebbled glass. I brushed past a frog with a violet tongue and discolored teeth who gulped for relief while his body remained static like a splayed thread in aspic. I made my way into the antress and found myself prating, "Prithee, pray tell what you remember of working your hands into the mud, feeling it curl up under your fingernails. It feels like a relic reunited with its original setting after having been figured lost or only seen in a dream." Betimes I glanced around for the traveling lamp while standing beside the curvature, hearing myself call the datelessly abandoned wizards and leasing and be faithfully young-eyed. I returned once more to the champagne and sat among the stones in silence, but I received no visions or visitations, no inspiration to invent an incantation, and in this vacuum of communication, I only experienced the sense or perchance suggestion of the imposing press of eras and atmosphere. And now I notice this restless weather, shy beams of sunlight moving sideways through the strings of remaining rain. It's called Shedding Skins. Bloody neuter on the ringworm dancing with a spectral beauty that isolates fleeting flags and flowers from their glorious panderings, only to find they need no bounds to pillage the free-flow love mine boiling on the calluses of their corneas. But you, yes you, don't him, actually, on the second time around forever and never considered why you laugh or what you grunt behind. And nothing is, alas, everything has been unrecovered by the sallow aristocracy implosion, in order when little girls encased in gender sunshine pull down the dawn and shriek merrily of the conquest of fantasy facts, that which, in proven by the powers that appear in by, how, where, or because the lightning rays that is the steel girder stapled to the collective loin nicked off its kerosene shell until its rural timeshares spat mucus from the utter depths of their backwoods soul scenery and trounced upon radiators slashing sharply in the wind in neatly layered shark skin sweater investments, droning to the click drum madness that haunts the delights of the Cupids and raises their swords to obscene. Fool Nancy's now branching to the stratosphere came nearer and nearer to their choice flight of just destination, gesticulatingly appointed by the elder Olympus, that no man hath done tread upon, neither conquering nor salivating, the twisted, pipeling, perpetuating, ghostly consequence, leading in for the crescendo that yearns to flee away. Perhaps to the gutter, perhaps to the perforation, perhaps to the hostage's cage in a womb 36 inches by the only thoughts you can't repress, manifesting suggest that by life and honor the first depths came forth united to the loyalty neither comprehend, instead shaping the wing, taught so flagrantly as to known as to regard its own height as its own high priest as the height and unique daft eccentricity. Oh, mad she who curses doth not will the plentitude into sleeping, but only scraping stones from its fingerprints, tangled lewdly in connection and gratification with a floundering spider's web. Get it together, get it yourself. The feeling you had linger for months under the ground, garden life albatross. She bleeds all over me. I say ball and chain in simple words. Idealization, affiliation, detoxification, menstruation. Dirt in the coffin, she's bleeding on the flower stems. Up in the air, salivating tissue under the ground. Dirt on the nails, bleeding again. Extend a hand in loving help, but maybe you should just kill yourself. This is called 3% Profit. Waking up to the sun-soaked world in the eyes of a diamond stretching out from a full circle, I was a recital resting on a bed of feathers and then floated to the front of the festivities. A Mercury step leaped through the lake and land in a leafy soft meadow, my legs a blurring, winding wheel. My mom and dad hold out boxes. They walk together to an airplane, then climb up and run across the wings. But soon it's nice and quiet for me, as we can plainly see. I tied a string around an anteater, as we can plainly see. The newspaper says it's better to have metal teeth, as we can plainly see, but I would rather bathe in butter, as we can plainly see. I nicked a little bit of a hammer and nail on my way onto the helicopter. What I knew of physics sped up my entrance. Never seen the sky be so brave and wide, or thought about the joy in watermelons. And when I carefully left the step stool and went into the underground ice tunnel, I ran across a humidifier so the motor could keep my feet warm and not get harmed by frostbite. My eyes hide behind a pregnant woman's stomach while a laser rings into my ears. I try to open a case of sewing supplies, but to my surprise, the latch is bandaged shut. I breathe yellowed air and drink bubbling water and play with friends who live in the shower. I put a cold stream of thoughts in a brown paper bag and wonder where I can tap the telephone. I freeze my face in photos so that I'm not recognized while I page through my own scrapbooks. The bugs in the cracks decline my invitations to dance, so therefore they're unwanted. I hiss into the sink until they crawl back so that my party can stay filled with levity and not too much gravity. So I paste my Polaroids all over the walls in geometric patterns and steal some dinner from my next door neighbors, as it's their fault for having given me a key. My sleeves festooned with pins and wind chimes dangle and jangle, announcing my arrival. A curl in the best nest with an arm that won't do you harm, an idol vibrating on a whirring appliance, as we can plainly see. And soon I'm ready to eat, nothing moving suddenly, as we can plainly see, and even sooner still, time to sleep. Here's to a night of pleasant dreams, as we can plainly see. This is called Investigating Mitsy. She rides around the merry-go-round wearing satin slippers, chewing pink peppercorns. Her eyes are a miracle in the way they paint names in the minds of rain clouds. The lightning reaches out to introduce itself. The Queen of Atlantis draws filigree for the king while he's taking his bath. Bristling lips kiss the teeth of the key ring and lick ankles and mouth. She holds a bouquet of clarinets, wearing a lavender herringbone robe and nodding at buckets of soap. Her elbows hold her weight on the sand dune, decorated with still wet seashells and teacups half filled with a treacle she pours onto tree roots. The Queen of Atlantis plans where the French and English will meet. The king eats suckling pig and excites the court over soaking his feet. How are we doing out there? is called Transformacion. Gull wing, gold leaf, ivory elevator doors open to reveal a portrait of an orchid saying, "This wicker basket contains every memory you've ever had. So if you've got a purple number, come over, pull out a slip, and start to reminisce." Me and my sister playing parlor tricks in the back seat while Dad turns up the radio to drown us out. Then he leads down, increasing speed on the way to the dog show. Come over, and pull out another favorite. Semi-finalists in the quarterfinals of our school district's annual spelling bee, and I got here on an easy word: charisma. Afterward, we went out for ice cream cake. Even though my mom wanted bagels, we let her hold the trophy as a form of a consolation prize. Transformacion! The baby blue lagoon gull wing elevator doors open to a balloon crooning in a soprano profundo. Today you're in a classroom sitting in between a magic wand and a sprinkler behind a rhinoceros and in front of a stethoscope, ready to make toothpaste out of erasers, lipstick, and hairspray. Today you're in a classroom and a substitute teacher is Adeline, a 102-year-old oak tree, and you're making birthday presents for her best friend, ready to make nylons out of eyeliner and passport pages filled with stamps of horse-shaped signatures. Transformacion! The pleated red vinyl elevator doors open to reveal a singing taxi. Today it's your birthday and you get a breakfast in bed served on a star-shaped black and white television set, blinking lights on the pillow heads, milk and blonde, a blue and white dress. Today it's your birthday. And you get a pink and blue book with blank pages to fill in with drawings and budgies and juice boxes, rainbows over razors, crisp bubble gum in between, mint baseball cards. The gull wing, gold leaf, ivory elevator doors open to reveal a portrait of an orchid transplanted to a beach. Today you're taking a surfboard out of a small bus while watching a girl pick up the wallet that just fell out of her purse. While your head is plate glass, your arms are oars, and your hands are rafts. Today, you're making videos on the boardwalk of people roller skating while holding umbrellas or eating ice cream off of towels. While your mouth is a string swimming in circles, while daylight is young, and they intend to dream of visiting plan full of pleasant flang tones rhyming ever so tinily and wranglily in something misheard and turned into a quiet joke among monks, and either brethering ein Bell. It's called One Possible Ending. The morning started with the Lord Mayor looking through my garbage, then running down an alleyway, guardsmen lining the fire escapes. I was at the airport selling luggage and pleasantries. A 20-year-old let me finish his breakfast in exchange for a letter from his university. With so many people watching slow-motion explosions, I've started turning my sights towards unfiltered colors and unretouched images. The unwalked world, where cures for disease sleep unnoticed in Brazilian trees, is a word problem that I can't solve. With so many people watching slow-motion explosions, I've started adjusting to diagrams, drafting tools, and handmade copper crowns. Though there are already enough code breakers for the next Cold War, more feathered hats and white suits in the lobbies of the finest luxury hotels that Europe has to offer, more handcrafted sports cars to speed along the smoothest roads that man has ever known, more than enough gold to flake into steaming broth with sumptuously verdant acres of you've used it before. Posting signs pointing to the closest church. He needs an infusion. His coffee is cold. He stayed up all night to see himself dancing on television. The church is closed to be reopened by the mayor's cousin in construction. The glistening grocery store. The tavern with daily fashion shows. He's set up a conference call, and he's trustworthy because he looks just like me. Big black belly like a fish! The hotel with large chunks of missing bricks. The police station next to the building with a sign pasted in the front window that says, "All law firm." The truck enforcement officer standing in the oncoming lane with his arms outstretched in ecstasy, overseen by a smiling baby who's somehow able to say, "I was able to smile 12 weeks from conception." I show my hand. I know I show my hand. 2 cars, 3 spaces apart, the White Castle parking lot. 1 man each gets out. On the left, he's wearing jeans and a flannel shirt, and a cowboy on the right, a charcoal gray business suit. They walk in together in a V-shape, meet at the door with a handshake. Then a heated conversation. The corners of the cowboy's mouth start to bubble and foam, and she's wobbling down the floor, her finger close somehow, and she's watched by a man in a tracksuit holding a vowel to a side story feet away. The party crew pulls a U-turn, and she's wobbling down the stairs. Lance Romance throws 20s into guys, waving away fruit flies, then shows his people why this is the finest fire temperature that you'll ever find. The party crew spots the car wash, and they get in line. They watch the jets bubble and foam. Heroes with unlimited powers to make bubbles and foam. The Randos Industries deploy to bring up an ecosystem. They're agreeing on a settlement with widespread future technology. She said accusingly and secretively restore her bloodlust company. Watch it bubble and foam. Frozen in place, the beer cans, hair extensions, pubic hair bondage, where eagle eyes, white fumes, flying fingers, tops and bottoms, middling kingdoms, like a sire joy, and I'm in a flood zone, Enos dual fight night, my eye, I'm in a flood zone, watch a bubble and foam when bourbon follows steam and form follows cream, bubble and foam over the safety warning, the crew delights, set one's sweat glands reeling with a shark tooth covered in pudding. The owner urges everyone to look out the window at the condo, tow truck, victim, night, uniform, camera, newspaper, bank, park, car, yard, new restaurant, as if he's got some psychic powers. He was taught the meaning of versatility, respect for the law, trust for fistfights, and an errant sense of humor that snorts debris when under the advisement of enforced idleness. This is an old one. I've read it many times over the years. It's called, it has a bad word in it. If you're offended, I don't know what to say for you. You know, you might need to, like, seek therapy, professional help, if you're offended by this sort of thing. Sorry, not really, ever. You know, it's your problem, not mine. This is called, and I refuse to infantilize people. So this is called, it's about freedom. Yeah, that's right. This is called, I Never Run Out of Money. He got in the car just to drive away with 89 on the radio, and he felt his eyelids quiver from the thoughts of them. He always wanted to go out with one of the older kids, and he sped past her house to remind herself that the whole thing hadn't been fiction. He had to chew on tablets of ephedrine just to stay awake as he careened down on the one lane town. The clock read 2:14 a.m. Name another place where you don't have to worry about the cum on your coat from the guy in back of you on the bus, or the weekend in Boys Town where you lost all your money, where you can die for the 50 SARS and still get reborn, where you can vomit on someone else's tonsils and still go home with them for the night. And you know that when you got a dime bag in your lap and you can drive the servant's entrance to paradise, it's not a privilege, it's a birthright. He was always fascinated by the kids a few years older who looked coked up by the age of 13. The news came from Washington. He had a fantasy that he kept kissing her on the forehead. Oliver North had been acquitted and Fawn Hall wasn't to blame, just like when they arrested Manuel Noriega because he wouldn't pay cash for the shipping costs of all his cocaine. He pulled into Super K for some Coca-Cola and saluted the limp American flag on the way in. Rolling Stone had Bruce Springsteen on the cover, and he felt like he had razor blades inside his stomach. Somehow, everyone felt let down by the Gulf War. It wasn't as bloody as My Lai, it wasn't as funny as Grenada, and gooks weren't bombed in the process. The commodities and gold and parachutes kept all the middle management well liquored up by the time Bush was giving his resignation speech. Voodoo economics and the crack epidemic sometimes made you wish that Nixon had been right all along, but this never seemed to bother him, and the national debt never meant shit to any decent citizens, especially not the kids who saw Heathers when it was still in the theaters. He got off the phone with one of his friends who complained that crack smoking was just a quote-unquote cheap ghetto high. The erythromycin was fucking up his liver, but at least it kept the acne off. He read a book about Charles Manson and figured the only difference between him and Nixon was a few years in jail and a copy of the White Album, but the thought of Squeaky or Sadie dressed up in their black capes, creepy crawling into someone's house, was still freaky enough to keep him sleeping out on the couch. At night, he had a horrible dream. Eric Estrada was hosting a beauty pageant at the Playboy Mansion featuring categories like worst facelift and most fucked up tit job, but he couldn't walk away from the spectacle of it all. All he could do was to slug down a bottle of Thunderbird and cradle a hard-on while slobbering, "I do believe I'm ready for the Playboy Mansion. I want to see Hef. Open up those goddamn gates." He woke up before the former First Lady wet t-shirt contest and ran to his car in horror. He flicked on the ignition and forced in a homemade tape. And while, let's see, The Gates of Steel, or maybe Everybody Wants to Rule the World, or what's the other one? Something Happens and I'm Head Over Heels, or what's the other one? The Jitterbug leaked out. He thought about how much he hated afraid of those old political arguments he heard that individuals are symptomatic of a sicker society, he came upon the Super K, the great beacon for people who are lonely and cheap, and admired its neon beauty against the black backdrop sky. He was looking sideways and feeling sick about what was smothering the rest of the land. Strip mall upon strip mall, grids and rows of anonymous stores. He thought about how all this used to be a beautiful forest and how disgusting it was that every developer was using their own lunch hooks to get a portion of the profits. He felt his stomach tighten from the thought of another obese teen selling Swatch watches and sunglasses, but then he turned his head forward, away from the strip mall, and saw nothing but outstretched lanes of tree branches and unpainted roads, and he soon knew that he was finally getting ready to go home. What are we doing out there? Good. This is called white cello. Take the white envelope next to your right hand. Give it to me. Here, look at the seal. Yeah, thank you. Talk to me. I'm in the open window. I'm not in time, but I've got your watch, and I need to learn to play this white cello. Scratch the surface. I'm on the shore with a can of sugar. It's never bitter. I'd really rather be playing, though, because I like the white strings and the white bow. That's not her. That's her, was the simplest thing you said today. I'm still reeling with no moments except now. You don't possess any microscope, so instead, I will take the telescope. I'm trying to be angelic, which isn't easy after getting desensitized with disappointments. Every night eating fresh vegetables while planning, you already know, and then you talk me out of it. You don't have a pistol in your waistcoat, your teeth aren't flecked with flax seeds, my misjudgments are my own, and most are unknown, and just because I'm a pacifist doesn't mean I'll let any dumb motherfucker abuse me. And speaking of myself, notice me! I'm standing next to the tree where the guy crashed the stolen car, then got out and ran for it. But I can behave for over 100 days, and I've squandered my efforts and so much goodwill that I sometimes still need to convince myself that I should try to take lessons to play it all. But I'm sure that you want me to, and I know what I can do. And with that, we're not missing anything. We're humming songs through the phone. We're holy rollers without a religion. We're midnight movers. And we're not. And don't be the guy on the bike in the right lane racing for his life against rush hour traffic in the morning. I know you are, and you know that I care, and I feel like I'm Clark Kent dressed in primary colors, and I haven't taken off my glasses yet. And she said to me, as long as it's not evil. And I said to her, I certainly cannot be evil. Not right now, but it's the rising sun, it's a hard-boiled egg, it's basil, it's a blue charm. I just want to play the white cello. I just want to sit in a circle and think about it some more. So we're going to wrap this up or test people's patience? No, 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 no. I'm thinking out loud. It's warm communication going on over here. Oh, God, see, that's what I'm talking about. So it's never going to change some channels, cords, dimes, nickels, and all somebody must be wearing a blue suit. Go to the slots and cut off your slots. It'll be a reverse safari where they put lions, cheetahs, and tigers in a truck and drive them around and show them people shopping, walking down the street or pumping gas or buying food. It'll be the apex of manifestation. It won't be in the Bible, but it'll be like the Bible. It'll be a suburban safari where some guy named Greg gives you a little pith helmet and plastic binoculars, and you could wait under his kitchen table for the cat to use the litter box. But why does it gotta be white? Never heard from before. Advertising space available, clean, clear water, and of course, the tastiest tomatoes. It needs to be kept simmering. Time should flow slowly and quietly. Let's go! My shoelaces are undone, which means someone's like me as much as I love to see a basket of swimming snowflakes. My shoelaces are undone, so I throw them next to a trunk full of styrofoam tongues, and the person who brought them yells, "Thank you!" The first person in the castle has the obvious advantage. If they wish to scrape their fingernails against century-old windows, they can concentrate vacantly while being unfailingly polite and insisting their hands are made of the same sand as found outside on the beach. They know there is no joy in failure for their friends, and that the fun and restoration happens once the work is done. The second person in the castle has obvious ease, with boldly seizing treasure only they can see through a fizzing camera lens. They can research quietly while having no qualms about their ambition and outstripping their abilities in assessing gaudy antiques. They know there is no lemon rich enough in sourness to let their taste get challenged into swallowing insects in soiled tents. The third person in the castle has the obvious edge when turning their profile to face the East End in hopes of repairing a table leg. They can dutifully saw and sweep the dust into a bin until the bell sounds to them to begin slicing vegetables in the kitchen. They know there is no creek deep enough to keep them from molding jellies into a series of perfectly semi-translucent wedges. I want breast buttons for my cousin. Because I could not count for cufflinks, they counted for me. Because I could not look for light bulbs, they looked for me. Because I could not dance for diamonds, they danced for me. They realized the chateau has the clear advantage as the place to evaluate flashy antiques. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make rubber buttons to wear for myself. While I sew, I look at the library and remember each of my most memorable finds. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make the rubber buttons I wear on my jacket. I buy the materials from the tan-toothed man who sold my mom a gold wishing box. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because when I preach with the collar, it preaches with me. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because when I move with the minnows, they move with me. They realize the chateau has the clear advantage when you're evaluating flashy antiques. Let's go! Well, it's always right. My shoelaces are undone, so I only walk sideways and photograph a plum purple terracotta planter with a flag with a price tag sticking out of it, though it's hard to know. My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me, as much as I love wearing an apricot ascot while hearing stories about Korean camping sites. The first person in the tower can brighten their senses by energetically exchanging sunglasses and hairstyles once safely ensconced at the top. They can cheerfully sing along with anything. Jesus fucking Christ. Though they prefer Caruso and ragtime to songs they don't know, there's usually a fixed point in the distance for them to focus on things such as a helicopter or hawk taking off shortly after dawn. The second person in the tower can loudly shout, "How I love my girl!" which echoes back so overwhelmingly they can think that they're in a private booth. They can detect the scent of her hair and shampoo in the wind and look down to see her looking up and running towards them. There's normally an iron staircase nailed in 40 years ago, which serves as the one modern addition to the edifice. The third person in the tower can tell endless jokes over dinner about the rabbits they saw nipping chocolate from their mother's open purses. They can wear a lei around their necks which contrasts sharply with their pinstripe sport coat and tartan flat cap. There is always a sauna where they can fall asleep underneath a slippery painting of their father all dressed up as a captain. My shoelaces are undone. They lay under the warmth of the sun. This is a true depiction, recited with excellent diction. Let's go! And now I recall other memories from walking around the castle, the humidity kept at bay, clouds letting loose only hints of rain, and vines intertwining across each other, and each new flower that blooms, another gift for the dozens of bees in love with the newness of June. It's all on top of my eyes. the curious sage in an orange and brown dashiki, standing before a statue of the stripped Christ, arms open and hovering, all on top of my eyes, lithium batteries in between her teeth. She holds a screwdriver dipped in green paint as she walks over underground cables, all on top of my eyes, in between her toes. She staves off headaches with gallons of water and sleeping when she can, all on top of my eyes. The swells of excitement are just one continued drone, close concert of ideas, stretching fingers. You did a great job today. Devoted, seriously, all on top of my eyes. One wonder, one today. And that, folks, was another exciting edition of the Quarantine Stream. We hope that you've enjoyed it. And let us, by the grace of God, we will be back next week. Until then, stay safe, stay smart, and stay free. Because you already are. Yes. And let us hear the theme song one more time. The Quarantine Stream. Beautiful. All right, folks. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, by the grace of God, we will be back next week. Until then, just relax. It's all going to work out. All right, everybody. All right, everyone. Goodbye.